this tournament.
Also appears to be a tough mutter.
A Tough Mudder.
Yeah, as I did see on his headband.
I've never done that.
I never will do that.
I'm not opposed to trying it once, but I would have to get into better shape than I am in right now.
I'm just really not a fan of the mud.
Well, I mean, it's part of the it's part of the experience. It couldn't be called tough mudding if there wasn't mud involved.
Well, I don't.
Or I guess it could be, but it would be disingenuous.
But I just don't have any interest in mud.
That's
Mud
totally
is
fine.
just gross. What is mud?
Well, it's wet dirt.
Not for me.
Okay.
Ugh. I can run through anything. Why's it gotta be mud?
I don't know. That's the point. I don't do it, man. I can't tell you what the logic is. I'm just,
Yowell being on the play here, I think, is very, very important. You can see his opening hand. Now, there's a Temple of Triumph. Also, I believe maybe a mountain hanging out there. Maybe it's a Sacred Foundry. You see the Eidolon. There's a Chain of the Rocks, a War Leader's Helix. We haven't seen Burn for some time, honestly. The last time I really remember seeing this deck was when we were in Knoxville a couple months ago, and we saw Tyler Wynn actually win the tournament there with Burn. That really feels like the last time we've really seen the deck perform well.
and this is, as you mentioned, a hand where it's really critical that Williams on the play. I think this hand's very good on the play, and possibly not even close to good enough on the draw. A lot of that has to do with Eidolon.
Yeah.
Because Eidolon does trigger quite a bit on both sides of the table in the matchup, so being on the play is significant.
It's a Temple of Triumph to start things off here for Yowell. An island into a Judge's Familiar. Good card in this matchup.
For sure. I mean, there are so many 4-mana spells in this deck now. Stoke the Flames kind of counts, kind of doesn't. War Leader's Helix and so forth. Judge's Familiar, all sorts of headaches for a red-white burn deck.
It's a young Pyromancer on turn number 2. Yowell could have played Eidolon if he wanted to, but he decided to go with the 2-1. In for 1 comes Gabriel Wilson. Yowell's going to go down to 17. We'll see if it's better to get this established, as here's a Frostburn Weird. Chandra's Phoenix is the draw here for William. Not sure if he has a third land or not. Does not look like he does.
Yeah, this is a tough spot to be in. I mean, he really needs to make his land drops. He needs to get to 4 mana to be able to deploy War Leader's Helix, help out with Stoke the Flames some. I think the play that I like this turn is Lightning Striking the Judge's Familiar and triggering the Young Pyromancer. I don't like untapping here, as Gabriel does have 1 copy of Rapid Hybridization, which is a huge risk here.
He's always got to be careful of those spells in this deck. Again, the 4 of Creatures we all know about at this point, but, you know, what's the makeup of the spells? Well, William actually knows, given that these players do have each other's deck lists. But there are 2 Domestications. There is 1 Rapid Hybridization, 2 Bidens, 2 Cyclonic Rifts, and then 1 Jace the Living Guild Pact, as there is a Lightning Strike.
A main deck Jace, the Living Guild Pack.
Yeah.
I believe they debut in the top 8 of the Open Series.
That is correct. There you do see the Lightning Strike on the Judge's Familiar. Chris Van Meter token in the house. Let's see if this is a Thassa. It certainly is. So a very, very nice start here for Gabriel. For William, needs lands. Draws Magma Jet.
Although this is potentially an opening for William here. I mean, he could Chain of the Rock, the Frostbird Weird, hope that Gabriel does not have Master Waves, and start racing.
It's going to be Stoke the Flames, it looks like. That's not bad either.
This is also a nice turn. It allows him to trigger the Young Pyromancer and keep the Chain of the Rocks in his hand as insurance against Master Waves.
So another elemental token will come in from Young Pyromancer and just pass the turn back. Reduce the devotion of Thassa. Gabriel Wilson will scry. See if he wants to keep that card or not. And the answer is no. This burn deck certainly got better with the inclusion of Stoke the Flames.
Yeah, it is no small upgrade.
And now it looks like it's time for a Nightveil Spectre. Important thing here, actually, is even though Devotion is up to 4, is that the only land that Wilson has available is a Mutavault. So you feel pretty safe about trying to kill that thing.
Yeah, although, I'm not sure if William currently has the tools. He does have that Chain of the Rocks, of course, but no Lightning Strikes and still stalled on lands.
Yeah. And he's still going to be soft and Master of Waves, but an attack for 4 is not so bad. Going to put Wilson down to 16, keeping the Devotion low so that Thassa does not turn on. It's very hard for the burn deck to beat that if the God of the Sea comes alive. Here's a mana. It's a Cloudfin Raptor. And now there's another Nightveil Spectre, plus the evolution of the Raptor. And now all of a sudden Thassa is online and attacking for 5.
Yeah. This is the tough thing about Mono Blue Devotion. They're just so efficient. And if you're missing your land drops, their creatures are very challenging to kill. Most of their mana to toughness ratios are very high.
Yowell's going to untap here. Again, still stuck on 2 lands. Needs to find a third one. That's another copy of Challenger's Phoenix. That is not what he's looking for.
So I did not like that play from Yowell. I think what he needed to do was Magma Jet the Cloudfin Raptor inside of his own upkeep, because it's so important for him to make land drops number 3 and 4. He cannot risk missing any more land drops.
Yeah, he's going to need War Leaders. He looks very, very badly. So there is a block. Going to lose the token here. The other token will come through. You see he's trying to entice block the Nightveil Spectre. Going to pass the turn back here. It's time to scry. And the top card's going to go to the bottom. So now Wilson will draw a card. There's a Nykthos, so some mana can be generated. You see him slide Nykthos right over very quickly.
Yeah, this allows him to cast Master Waves and have the mana left over to make Thassa unblockable, potentially.
With that trigger on the stack for Evolve, going to Magma Jet, the Cloudfin Raptor. Take a look at the top couple of cards. Master of Waves is going to provide 5 elemental tokens, so now another Chain of the Rocks is very important.
And this is what I was alluding to before, the top 2 card of William's deck. Land and land. Had he jetted inside the upkeep, he would have been drawing running lands, assuming that he put the Phoenix that he drew last turn to the bottom.
Yeah. His running lands isn't great now. Looks like Mutavault's feeling a little frisky as well. That's going to be a 3/3 due to Master of Waves. And you make a little something unblockable here with the extra mana. Could simply be Thassa. 5 damages, the largest amount.
Yeah, and if William wants to trade his Young Pyromancer for your Mutavault here, you're totally happy with that.
And there won't even be a trade because Mutavault's a 3/3. So
yep.
It would have to be a double block, and that's obviously a lot of value for the Mono Blue Devotion player. So after the dust does settle, a mountain goes over from Nightveil Spectre. Now you untap. William knows what he's drawing, which is a Battlefield Forge. And Battlefield Forge is not what he's looking for, and he's going to concede the game. So Gabriel Wilson with Mono Blue Devotion is up a game over William Yowell. As we're going to bring it back to the booth here because it is trivia time. So it's time for a rules explanation from me and a question from Patrick. Or do you want to go the other way?
Other way.
You want to go the other way? You want me to do the question?
Yeah, we historically kind of have a
There's no
pattern
history.
with these.
We've never done this
3,
before.
6, 12. No,
All right.
3, 6, 12.
Fine. Patrick will explain the rules. I'll ask the question.
Cedric will ask you a question. You will tweet your answer at SCG Live and hashtag SCG Premium. Of the correct responses, one will be selected at random for 3 months of Star City Games premium content. It's about accuracy and not speed, so don't worry about submitting first, just correctly. And please note that this contest is run at the sole discretion of StarCityGames.com, and Twitch TV is no way affiliated with giveaways on streams.
Pretty easy question early this morning. If you take a look at the elimination rounds of this tournament, we have 4 pretty sweet decks. And black-white, mid-range, Jund Planeswalkers, Jund Monsters, and then Burn, and then 4 of the same deck. The question is, what is the archetype of the deck that we have 4 copies of in the top end? If you can name that archetype, hashtag your answer with the hashtag SCG Premium. Make sure you're following at SCG Live, and we'll announce the winner at the conclusion of our quarterfinal round. As we do head back down to the match because it's time to take a look at the sideboards here, and we will start with William, and I'll let you begin as you know this archetype pretty well.
3 Fire Drinker Satyrs, a Chain of the Rocks, 2 Nyx Fleece Rams, 4 Satyr Fire Dancer, 2 Magma Spray, 3 Searing Blood. There's a lot to like here, a lot of upgrades. I think the Fire Drinker Satyrs, the 4th copy of Chain of the Rocks, so the 2 copies of Nyx Fleece Ram, the 2 Magma Sprays, and 3 Searing Bloods are all reasonable cards to bring in. I don't know if he's going to want to go so far as to bring in Magma Spray, because Mono Blue Devotion does have a healthy number of 3 and 4 toughness creatures, and there's already, 2 damage effects, and you're bringing in the Searing Bloods. But I do like the additional Chain of the Rocks. The Satyr Fire Dancer, I think, is huge upside in the matchup, as is Searing Blood, and Nyx Fleece Ram can do some valuable blocking work as well.
On the other side of things for Gabriel Wilson, you see a lot of 1s and 2s. Domestication and Dispel, 2 Gainsay and Negate, 2 copies of Polymorphous Jest, 2 Rapid Hybridization, 2 Swan Song, a Jace Architect of Thought, 2 Jace Memory Adept, and Jace the Living Guild Pack. A lot of Jaces over there. Haven't seen that before. Additional Domestication is okay, but I'm not sure it's necessary in this matchup. He already has 2 in the main deck. A third one could make things a little bit clunky. I think Dispel is very easy to bring in. The same can be set for Negate. Rapid Hybridization is certainly okay as well. I'm not in love with the Swan Songs. I would prefer not to provide William with any flying blockers, and the Jaces, I think, are just too expensive in the matchup.
If there's going to be any Jace coming in, it's Architect of Thought, because plus 1ing Jace can slow down a lot of William's creatures because they're so small. That said, it wouldn't surprise me if William got rid of a lot of his game 1 creatures because they're so ineffective. I mean, Young Pyromancer can be fine in some spots, but Gabriel's deck is really good at invalidating 1/1s. Eidolon couldn't even be cast in the game that we saw, and I think that's going to be typical of the matchup.
Yeah.
And I don't like Chandra's Phoenix very much against a deck that's bringing Nightveil Spectre to the table. So he might want to overhaul his creatures altogether, especially since he has so many good ones in the sideboard to bring in.
Yeah, Fire Dancer being the best of the bunch, I believe.
Yeah. Next Place Ram is excellent too.
Yeah. Can hold the ground. I mean, he's a control deck in this matchup, I believe.
Well, he needs to get to 4 mana.
Sure.
You know, it's a weird sort of spot because he is a control deck, but he still needs to leave in cards like Boros Charm and probably not Skullcrack, but a lot of his player-only damage to close out the game in time. So he's got to be able to contain Gabriel's board while also pressuring him.
Of course, when we do have more results from other matches, we will bring them to you guys. We do have Colin Roundtree playing Mono Blue Devotion against Sean Hughes playing Black-White Midrange. Jake Perellis playing Mono Blue Devotion against Ryan Cox playing Jund Walkers. That deck gaining in popularity. And then Richard Ritchie playing Jund Monsters against Alec May playing Mono Blue Devotion. So 3 other matches taking place early this morning. We do have players rolling in for our Legacy Open here as well. That will begin in underneath an hour. So that'll be fun to watch later today. And then our Modern Premier IQ as well.
I suspect probably a fast elimination rounds today.
I think so, yeah. I really do.
No copies of Sphinx's Revelation.
That's actually really been par for the course now. This is the 3rd week in a row.
Yeah.
No Rev decks in the top 8.
And Jerry Thompson has been speaking of that deck's demise now for a little while.
Jerry has felt that Rev is just not very good in Standard right now. He feels like the cards that the deck plays just aren't cheap and efficient like it used to be when they used to play cards like Pillar of Flame and a bevy of other spells, and then used Revelation to refuel, and then you could fire off those cheap spells again and just continue that. The spells are more expensive.
Makes you wonder if maybe a red splash has been largely unexplored in Revelation decks. I mean, you have Temple of Epiphany and Shivan Reef.
Yeah.
And, you know, you do get cards like Magma Spray to speed up the deck. Turn burn.
Yep.
You do get to speed up if you're worried about cheap creatures.
I'm generally surprised that a blue or red deck is not surfaced. You know, the red splash for cards seems to be pretty good. Is It Charm, another card that is underplayed? That's really good in the Revelation Mirrors, of course. You know, lets you filter your cards, also takes care of some cheap creatures, as you mentioned in the red matchups. Kills Pack Rat as well early in the game. And you can't forget about Keranos.
Yeah.
That's a really nice win condition for those decks and card advantage engine. So, again, I've been a little surprised that we haven't seen blue, white, red at all.
Seems like in this metagame, I'd rather be, you know, access to Magma Spray and similar cards than, say, Thoughtseize. Wanted the deck to just be a little bit faster.
Yeah. You are a little soft to Desecration even, I feel, with that kind of strategy. A little bit, because the red spells that you're splashing for are damage-based spells, and that means that killing a 6/6 can be difficult. There's a heavy reliance on a card like Detention Sphere at that point. This looks like, okay, I was gonna say this is a 2 Mutavault hand. That one's not great, but that Temple of Triumph actually kind of saves things, honestly.
Yeah, it's a little land heavy of a hand, but if your hand's gonna be land heavy, you might as well have 2 Mutavaults in it.
Gabriel Wilson gonna play a 1-drop yet again. It's a Cloudfin Raptor. Yowell draws his card for the turn. Young Pyromancer is shown to the party. But I believe, depending on the contents of his hand, this feels like a game where you start off with Satyr Fire Dancer, and just the threat of that changes the way that Wilson has to play the game.
Yeah, it gives you a really high upside turn next turn where, you know, you get to potentially, if Gabriel's play is Tidebinder Mage, kill everything with your Satyr Fire Dancer and your Searing Blood.
Yeah. The Young Pyromancer is the weapon of choice, however, for William. And now this is a Frostburn Weird, and we're going to evolve the Cloudfin Raptor. So an attack for 1 in the air is where Gabriel will begin. Down to 19 goes William. William will draw a card. It's a copy of Stoke the Flames. Now might be a good time to take care of that Frostburn Weird. We'll see. And it looks like we're going to go with a Fire Dancer here and simply pass the turn back. Wilson will draw a card. And we'll see what he's able to put together on his third turn of the game.
William's getting a nice little shop set up here. Again, no answer in hand to Master of Waves, which is potentially a bit of a concern, but he's going to be able to contain most other creatures going forward.
There you do see Satyr Fire Dancer. You can't forget that that thing is an enchantment. Doesn't play a huge role in this matchup yet, though. Mute your mic and bring it closer to your mouth since you're breathing very heavily into it. There is the, wow, really, really good start. Thassa, too, after an attack. Now, the good thing here for William is that after he draws his card, he's able to actually clear out everything here if he'd like to. A Sacred Foundry is the draw for the turn, but what he can do is he can play Searing Blood, take care of the Cloudfin Raptor, and of course that 3 damage will be dealt. Satyr Fire Dancer's trigger will happen. Sure, deal 3 to the Frostmourne if he'd like to. But then, more importantly, he's given another creature so that he can cast Stoke the Flames, deal 4 upstairs, and take care of the Frostmourne Weird.
Or he can play Lightning Strike and finish it off that way.
Yeah.
He has a couple different paths.
But I think that this turn ends with there being only a Thassa on the board. Okay, but I don't think there's any reason to get too cute, too. I think it's very important you do this when your opponent is tapped out.
The red matchups are one of the places where Thassa is one of the weaker cards in the deck, oddly enough, because things like this can happen. All your creatures get cleared out, and then you're behind on the board, under the gun.
Looks like Sacred Foundry is going to come into play untapped. So down to 15 goes William. And it's time to cast a Searing Blood. So that will deal 2. Trigger, trigger. A lot of these things are going to happen. Here's 2 mana. There is Lightning Strike. We'll go upstairs, trigger this, take care of that. And now even the ability to cast Stoke the Flames now too. But I think an attack is probably a little bit better at this point. An attack here, 4-3. We'll put Wilson down to 11, and he is in the driver's seat.
This is a pretty awesome sequence here for William. And in this matchup, you know, he kind of has to be, as I mentioned during the sideboard, a mixture of a control deck and still be able to burn Gabriel out pretty quickly. And Satyr Fire Dancer is the perfect card for that role.
There's a 4th land, an island. You saw Wilson resolve the Scry with his Thassa. He's underneath the gun here. As you mentioned, Thassa not at its best in this matchup. It's certainly good, but not at its best here. If things are going well for William, it's actually very difficult to turn on.
It's one of those things where when Gabriel plays it on the 3rd turn of the game, William's likely to say, all right, I got a shot. This is my turn to make a big push. We saw it last turn, and now Thassa has just been not really impacting the game thus far.
Here's a couple of creatures. Tidebinder Mage is going to shut down Young Pyromancer. Frostmourne is going to come in. Now here's an attack for 5, so Yowell's going to go down to 10. But those are creatures that can be cleaned up.
Yeah. And there's pressure on Gabriel to reassemble Devotion every turn.
So players will make sure the life totals are correct here in just a moment. But we could very easily see on the next turn, everything's going to untap for Yowell outside of that Young Pyromancer due to the Tidebinder Mage's trigger. We could have a Stoke the Flames go upstairs, for example, take care of the Frostmourne Weird. I actually do kind of like the block there, too. Keep that life total high with the Elemental token. So we're going to stay at 15, actually, Will William. He's going to draw a card. We'll see what he can find. It's a Chain of the Rocks. That's pretty good, too.
Chain of the Rocks is basically ideal here, as it takes away 4 points of devotion potentially from Gabriel if William wants to, and just strands him with a Thassa on an empty board, generates another token, unlocks the Young Pyromancer. Now next turn there's 2 Mutavaults that can start attacking. I'm curious to see if William wants to save the Chain of the Rocks in his hand for a potential Master of the Waves, or if he's willing to fire this off right now.
Yeah, that certainly does make things interesting, because the Master of the Waves doesn't seem great on this board. There will be Devotion of 2. It will provide 2 elemental tokens. It's not bad, but, you know, it's not really the end-all, be-all in this situation. We'll see how he wants to organize things. Looks like he's going to begin with the chain. He says, I'm going to take care of you. This feels like a Stoke the Flames that's going to go upstairs now. Yep. And so that 4 damage will take care of 4 and also the Frostburn Weird. We can't forget about the trigger from the Young Pyromancer. That'll put an Elemental token into play. Now here's an attack for 2, and Wilson's all of a sudden down to 5.
And this is why I like not playing around Master Waves, because it's not clear Master Waves even gets Gabriel out of this.
Yeah. Wilson will draw a card. Now, he can get a little tricky on some of the spells that he has access to. Here's 4 mana. There is Master. So Yowell gives him the thumbs up, and there's the 2 elemental tokens. But as you mentioned, it's not clear that he gets him out of this. He does have 3 blockers, but William has a lot of attackers with the 2 mutavaults. And heck, he could draw a burn spell or a chain. There's a Warrior's Helix. Now, he does owe to himself to dispel a little bit here, but it's very clear he doesn't have dispel since he's letting this resolve very quickly. So 4 damage goes upstairs. State of Fire Enter Trigger is going to take care of one of those elemental tokens. William will gain 4 life, which isn't that relevant, and he's going to attack with everybody here. And that is going to do it. So William Yowell is going to win game number 2 here over Gabriel Wilson. Red, white, burn looking very impressive in game number 2.
Yeah, the game plan there, it's hard to straddle the line between controlling the board well enough and also pressuring Gabriel's life total. And the Satyr Fire Dancer is so critical to splitting the difference between those 2 rules.
Yeah, you can see the role that Fire Dancer plays in this matchup, which is just, it's absolutely fantastic. It's very, very hard for Gabriel Wilson to get off the board, and really the only really way he has to get it off the board is via rapid hybridization, and you're probably okay with that exchange.
Domestication is another thing where it's, okay, it's off the board, but that's a lot of mana to impact the board in that light of a way.
You see both players are re-sideboarding here a little bit. Williams certainly is, as we are informed right now that Jake Perellis is up a game over Jund Walkers with his mono blue devotion deck. So we can put one down for him. Again, he does play the winner of Colin Roundtree and Sean Hughes, mono blue versus black-white mid-range over there. But very quickly, we will talk about Star City Games game night coming in September, which is much closer than we all think.
Yep, and signups are closing soon to get on board for September, so get in there soon if you're interested. 2 pins and 8 foil tokens sent out each week. New pins and foils are designed and sent out every month. Wednesday night game night is when this all happens, of course. Starting in September, StarCityGames.com/game night for more information. This is going to be pretty local, grassroots, casual, organized play. Stores can run whatever format they want, sanctioned, not sanctioned, constructed draft. Just get more people in your store, playing some Magic, playing for some sweet pins and foils.
August 11th is the cutoff here for your store to be eligible in September. So make sure that if you do want to have Star City Games game night in your store by August 11th, it's not hard to do. StarCityGames.com/game night, hashtag SCGN. And of course, game night at StarCityGames.com is the email to get any more information. Bug your local tournament organizer, because we promise it's not hard to do. And who doesn't want these squirrels?
Yep. A lot of your players at the local store will demand them.
Yeah, who are we kidding? Who doesn't
Who
want
are
those?
we kidding? He is exhausted from eating. How adorable is that? He's tuckered out because he's eaten so many nuts.
Oh, nuts
Acorns.
Nuts are good. I don't know if acorns are good.
Yeah.
Are we able to eat acorns?
I don't know.
Is that a thing?
I don't know.
I could try it.
I think there's something you can like roast them or something. I'm not sure if I'm thinking of something
I
else.
guess in theory I can do whatever I want.
Yeah.
So if I want an acorn, I can certainly eat one.
I don't think they kill you. You know, I'm
guess
not sure.
That's a thing that matters.
I'm not sure if it's actually good. You know, is it tasty for a human being? I'm not sure. But I'm thinking of chestnuts, not acorns.
Perhaps there's only one way to find out.
Yeah.
Colin Roundtree does win his match over Sean Hughes. Black-white mid-range is no longer in the tournament. Roundtree with mono blue devotion. He actually won very quickly.
Yep.
I'm a little surprised. And we do have Alec May up a game with mono blue devotion against Richard Ritchie playing Jund Monsters. Could be the old broomstick.
Could be.
It very well could be.
Clean sweep.
Yeah, the 4 mono blue devotion decks could make it all through, and we do have nothing different here. Okay, so we're good.
Could be a lot of mono blue in the semis. I mean, we're already kind of on that path.
I don't think that I believe that one at least will get through.
Oh, that's a lock.
That's like a lock. Yeah,
That's a lock.
It's just too likely. And you know, I actually think the deck was a really, really good choice this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, on camera we saw a bunch of different stuff going on.
Yeah.
And in fields where there's a bunch of different stuff going on, mono blue devotion's excellent.
And if you can slide through your mono black matchup, which, you know, isn't unwinnable, obviously, I feel like it is unfavorable. But if you can work your way through it, you know, you're going to play against a lot of mid-range decks and aggressive decks here in Dallas. And life is good then.
Exactly. Mono blue's matchup against the 2 other boogeymen of the format has typically not been very good in Revelation strategies and mono black devotion. But everything else is totally fine. And this elimination round is chock full of everything else.
We do have Jake Perellis winning his match over Ryan Cox 2-0. You can slot mono blue through there. That's pretty easy breezy.
Fast. Real fast.
Well, why waste time?
Why mess around? It's a good question.
Yeah, get the job done. That's what you do. So both players shuffling up here. And we'll have game number 3 underway. Of course, don't forget, we'll announce our trivia winner at the conclusion of our quarterfinal round. We've got 6 and 12 months to give away still. And we also have a legacy tournament to cover today. Joe Lissette will be playing Miracles, I assume.
And a lot of pressure on him in this tournament.
Yes, absolutely.
A lot.
We know that Tom Ross is here. He's going to be playing Blue-Green Infect. He's pretty happy about that. And we'll see if Colin Chilbert does show up to play with the old High Tide deck. Oddly enough, last time we were here, Colin said he didn't even want to play High Tide. He just had nothing else to play, and he made the top 4. So
I'm not a huge fan of the deck.
I love it.
No, I'm not. I think it's not particularly powerful. I think it's cool, but not a deck that I would choose to play in a tournament.
7 cards for William Yowell. He'll be on the draw this game after an impressive Game 2 victory. And Wilson will draw up 7 as well. He'll be on the play. Good place to be. William Yowell very quickly mulligans. No, thank you.
Not even waiting for Gabriel to
Yeah,
confirm or
nope.
deny his 7.
My hand stinks.
Yeah, 1 lander, multiple copies of Chain of the Rocks.
Has to draw a white land to really even function.
Yeah, needs to be. I think that hand, if the mountain is a Sacred Foundry, is fine.
Snap it off.
I think so. Had a Young Pyromancer, a Searing Blood, 2 Chain of the Rocks.
Those rounds are all good.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a Sacred Foundry there. I'd rather lose the mulligan, you know,
Okay, easy.
with that hand.
It's debatable.
I saw Paul Rietzel at Grand Prix Albuquerque keep a 1-land Thoughtseize hand in the mirror match of Mono Black Devotion. Did not draw well. Was stuck on 1 land for a long time and lost. And he said, if I'm going to mulligan hands like that, why am I even showing up to the tournament? Congratulations, by the way, Paul Rietzel, newly minted Hall of Famer, well-deserved.
Hall of Fame elect. Very happy for him.
Well-deserved. Guillaume Wafataba, Makahiro Mahara.
Also
Very
in.
solid class.
Absolutely. Very deserving class.
Congrats to all 3.
I've been annihilated by all 3 of those players.
I don't know if I've actually played. I've played Guillaume once. I do not believe I've played Mahara or Paul.
I played against Guillaume at Grand Prix Barcelona. Played against Paul at Grand Prix Denver, like 2010, where he annihilated me with some infect creatures, as William is going to take a second mulligan as he has no lands in that hand. And then Makito Mahara, I lost to in, you know, remember at Grand Prix, I think it was actually Pro Tours, used to have those draft challenges?
Yes.
On the 3rd day, I lost him playing for top 8 on a draft challenge. So I've played against all 3.
Mulligan to 5 is so rough for burn because the deck is all about critical mass of effects.
Yeah, horrible spot to be in.
Satyr Fire Dancer is the one card that can catch him up here.
Yeah. It's never a great time to take a mulligan to 5, of course, but this is absolutely one of the worst. And the matchup is already pretty tough. You need all those cards to operate.
It is the toughest thing about playing aggressive red strategies in general. Mulligans are disasters.
Yeah. You know, it's tough to say. Maybe you keep that first one now. I hope you just kind of run perfect.
With Legacy Burn, for example, I almost never mulligan because it's just hard to beat almost anything with 6 cards.
Yeah, it feels like with Legacy Burn, you can maybe take 1 mulligan on the draw.
Yeah.
That's really about it.
Well, if you go past, you know, if your hand has 5 lands in it, let's say one of those is almost certainly just a mulligan to begin with, so you had to mulligan those. But functional 1-landers, I'm just keeping.
Hope to get there.
If I'm gonna mulligan hands like that, why am I even showing up?
We've been informed that you can't eat acorns.
Okay.
That's good. And there's actually acorn butter.
Okay.
Now you're speaking my language. Even though I don't know if it's good or not.
You've at least piqued my interest.
Yes, yeah. How can they can just make butter out of anything now. How's that work?
You mean the actual process, or?
Yeah, they just make butter and milk out of everything. Is there acorn milk? I wouldn't be surprised. There's almond milk.
Well, those things aren't real. They're not actually milk. It's not like a dairy product.
Says
it's
it on
just,
the box.
You can put a lot of things. Fruit Loops says fruit on the box, so there's no fruit in that. It's not the same thing.
How sure are you about that?
Pretty sure.
Yeah, pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure.
Lightning strike on Sidefinder Mage. Gonna take care of that. Are you trying to say that Cinnamon Toast Crunch isn't toast?
No.
It is delicious. Might be time for another lightning strike here.
Yeah, got to keep his board pin down. And this is another. I don't really know what the upside here is of getting tricky, and there's a lot of things that can go wrong.
Yeah, there's a real downside. Getting it countered, getting destroyed by rapid hybridization. There's some real bad here.
Okay.
There's a Master of Waves. All right, this works out okay. Master is only going to generate 1 token. Take a draw here. A white source is important. Okay.
All right. It's got a hand.
We're going to play a little magic here, it looks like. Take 2. Chain of the Rocks is probably pretty good.
So on a 5-card hand, William, this is good. He's keeping his head above water, but he can't win the game like this. He needs to find a Fire Dancer or a Young Pyromancer, something to generate some card advantage or allow him to redirect some of his resources at Gabriel's head if he's going to win this game. Even a Chandra's Phoenix, something to generate some tempo on his side of the table.
Here's 4 mana. This might be another Master. Actually, we're going to go with the Jace. Now, that one's tough to beat. That's going to tick down. Take a look at 3 cards here. Cloudfin Raptor times 2 and a Master of Waves. Pretty easy split there for Gabriel. You know what's going to happen to your cards. You know it's going to be Master Versus. The question if you're Wilson is, what do I take? What do I take? He says, give me the Raptor. Okay, I thought he was going to say give me the Raptors, but those are going to go to the bottom.
I like taking Master Waves quite a bit here because William probably cannot beat it. That's the most likely outcome.
Chances are, yeah. He has 3 Chain of the Rocks versus 4 Master of the Waves. He's on a mulligan of 5, so he's going to have to keep drawing Chain of the Rocks to get that thing off of the table. Jace is going to get cashed in here.
A little weird for him to cash in his Jace now.
Before casting Master?
When he could play Master.
Going to take these lands to the hand. Judge's Familiar is going to go to the bottom. So he has a greater plan. There's land for the turn. Here's 2 mana. That's a Frostburn Weird. Here's 4 mana. This is a Master of Waves. Trigger. 3 creatures are going to come in here for Wilson. Pass the turn back.
And I believe, unfortunately for William, that Gabriel has Cyclonic Rift in hand, so he can set up the old end of turn Cyclonic Rift, your Chain of the Rocks, untap, kill you.
Yeah, destroy you.
A play that I have been on the other side of quite a few times.
How does that feel?
It's not good.
No? Warleader's Helix is going to take down Frostburn Weird right now. But as you mentioned, these exchanges are not profitable, and that's the problem. If there's a Satyr Fire Dancer in play, we're looking at a completely different game. Maybe even one that William can win on a mulligan of 5, because that can undo the mulligan due to all the card advantage, but that's not what's happening right now.
Yeah. The bird deck cannot become a pure removal deck. It needs Young Pyromancer or Fire Dancer to justify that line of attack. So William's trying to protect himself, but that's not a long-term plan here.
It's 4 mana. It's another Master of Waves. Only 2 Devotion there, but now here's an attack for 3, 6, 9, 10, 11.
And with a leftover Cyclonic Rift.
Oh, Satyr Fire Dancer has shown up to the party. And an extension of the hand has as well. Gabriel Wilson's going to win this match over William Yowell. 2-1. And if you like islands, which you and I do, Mono Blue Devotion moving on yet again.
Looks like we might be setting up for a all-mono blue semifinal.